So what are we doing this week?
What are we doing this week?
What are we doing this week? Well, we got some things to do.
Yeah, we got
What are we
some
doing?
things.
The 6th.
The 6th is not only meeting with our tax brokers, but some other big meetings I heard.
Yeah, well, I mean, what we're doing like the 3-year forward
We're doing
financial
the
review,
vendor
or financial
adjustment.
forecast.
Oh, I meant you and I's meeting with our friend.
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna do a vendor relationship adjustment.
Financial forecast will be fun. Tax thing. I'm like,
Taxing
What?
should be interesting.
so what do you expect that to go like, or what do you hope to get out of?
Yeah.
that.
So for everybody listening,
Maybe get some, background.
we've kind of moved. Yeah, I feel like you just start your company. You know, you're pretty much all right. Just kind of working with a CPA. They're doing your taxes, but as you get bigger, and you're really trying to operate right, it's like we run a business that's like a really low margin business, and we're really trying to be as efficient as we can be in all the different aspects. And that includes like your tax strategy and what that looks like personally, right? Personally and as a business. So we're moving from kind of traditionally just having a CPA do our taxes to having actually like a tax firm do our taxes. And so yeah, we have that meeting on Thursday, and I think they're just gonna look at our books, look at like the structure of our company,
Right.
look at different ways what pay looks like for ourselves and a few family and friends investors we have. And I think they are going to look at like what does the optimal tax strategy look like for us from like a structure point of view, from like I think once you get into more of like that expert tax strategy level, there's different and as the size of the company that we are, there's different strategies that you can employ to help be as efficient as you can from like a tax point of view.
Yeah.
I picture it as some school.
So yeah, I'm down to learn because I'm not a tax
Right.
expert. So
I mean, we switched from LLC to an S corp to a C corp over our time, right? Like
Right.
we're learning what's best for us and doing our best with it. But I imagine that's a huge part of it. Is just like somebody who really knows, being like, this is probably how you should operate moving forward.
yeah, for
you know?
sure they know things that we don't,
Yeah.
and so I'm
'Cause we've
interested
tested
to
the waters.
see,
And you've done
yeah.
a great job, Chuck, for
Oh,
sure.
thanks.
But I think that's part of the fun is like, yeah, who knows? And we're also like, fun fact from Herman, we're going to be close to, if not hitting the Century Club in terms of team members by
Yeah,
midsummer.
that's what he told me. Yeah.
Yeah, what do we have, 90 right now?
We
or
should have
something?
100 by the end of June.
Someone said 90. I was like, no.
we're about there,
I
dude.
was in the 70 club still,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, well, I was in the 80, but we're officially going to hit 100.
Yeah, we get that summer bump.
Yeah, summer bump, and working on some of our stuff with we're calling it a flex shift, but the ability to have people that are ready to go in the waiting, so that we've got some fun things coming. My article for Bruce the Mag
Oh,
popped
yeah,
and dropped.
dude.
That's been fun.
I read
Link
it. It was
in
awesome.
Just started.
bio.
We can link in
bio
bio that thing.
What's it
it's
about?
cool. It's about training systems, creating training essentially, with a little bit of. It's almost exactly what I wrote. She needed to do a little editing to cut it down. I think, though, I didn't write customers. I see customers in it a few times, and I think maybe guests got switched to customers in the edits. But
Ooh.
and if I wrote customers, which just doesn't feel like
I don't
something
think
would
you
write.
wrote customers.
Yeah,
that's
that doesn't really
not
make
our
sense to
language.
me.
we call our people who come in guests. So I saw customers a couple times.
Well, we
and
don't
I was
even
like, well, I
call
can
them
own
guests.
that.
They just are guests.
Yeah,
Like,
they be our guests
This
every
is what
day.
they are.
But I think it came out well. I'm proud of it for sure. I feel like it's interesting and engaging for people who want to follow that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can read it online for free, or you can order Barista Magazine, both of which are worth your time. But we can link in bio to the digital copy.
Mm-hmm.
I had a fun time writing it, and I got some good discussion out of Sarah from it, so that was cool.
What were you guys talking about?
Well, I mean, it's just looking at she didn't realize how intentional we were. We also put things like the passports, the
Yeah, I
sobriety
saw it was in
passport.
there. Yeah.
I don't think there's a picture of the handbook, but we just got into that process a little bit. I mean, I got some fun feedback, and she said that I'm a good writer in comparison to like the general populace who write in, which felt good. That was nice because I don't really write things publicly like that,
Mhm.
like in that regard.
All you other BMAG contributors suck, dude. Get your game up.
Well, I think she means she reads stuff in general, like not about specifically BMAG, right? She reads things and she but she felt like it was interesting and engaging, and there was kind of like a personality to it. But I mean, it's kind of our concepts, right? You start with a mission, you come up with values, come up with intentionality, but it's speaking to just a little bit below the surface of like how those things land, and then a little bit about SMART goals, and just trying to throw out some comparison and some reference to like ideas around power to please in systems too, like systems that are specific enough, but also that allow the human beings to make decisions to actually help somebody. So, an example I use is if you booked like an all-inclusive flight package where it was like, I leave from Florida and there's just a series of tickets that take me on a tour because I'm on like a speaking tour, say, right? And you go to Washington, to Seattle, to whateversville, and it's all booked as one ticket. And then something comes up and you need to change just the first ticket. And at first you're like, try to do it and you can't figure it out. So then you call and you're like, hey, I just need to change the first ticket. I need to leave later in the day. I'm going to be able to hit all my connections. Like, it's going to be all good. I just need to leave later in the day. I'll pay for any of the fees. I'm like, I don't know. It's in the system. Like, you can't change that first ticket. If you change it, you lose all the tickets. You're going to have to rebook the whole thing. And it's like, well, how about I just book my first ticket up to this place and then continue the journey? It's like, no. Like, if you're not on that first flight, like the whole thing is null and void. And the whole idea is like, how can a human being not just step in because of the system? The system says it's got to be this way, and things like that. How do you build systems that are variable and agile enough that you can make adjustments if needs be and serve?
And I can just hop in real quick on that, like just talking about the passport and just how some of our training things are set up. Like I think you guys saw I had like my EO group, like my entrepreneurs organization group was down here for a retreat last week. And we came by and I gave them a tour and I was showing them, we were talking about training and the passport, and I gave them a copy of the passport, and every one of them said like that something like that would be like a value add to their businesses. And it's like they all have businesses across industries, across like sizes from like $1 million to like $10 million businesses, and like every one of them was like, wow, we need better in this area. We need something like this.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
So it was cool. That was cool to hear.
Yeah. I think it feels simple, but it's somewhat revelatory. So we've been revamping the newsletter. So the first version of the new newsletter drops. It's Monday today, so it's coming out tomorrow as we're recording this. So if you're listening to it, it'll already be out. But I wrote on Power to Please.
Nice.
In much the same way. And the things really that you want to systematize are the things that are, I don't want to call them no-brainers, but they're things that are non-negotiable. So it's like there's a certain way to make a cappuccino. There are certain steps that you have to take. We have the 7 steps of service, but within those things, you don't have to, you can have a little bit of your own personality shine through and meet the guests where you're at. So there's a difference between coming into Cat and Cloud versus walking into McDonald's. Hello, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please?
Yeah.
They don't say that anymore.
Or
You
they
have
don't
to
say
go
that
to-
'cause there's a
you
robot.
gotta go to the screen
Yeah.
right here. They
I haven't
blow
been in
you
for a
through
while.
to the screen.
Or even a Starbucks,
Yeah.
where it's like, and I understand why people have such scripted steps of service, or they rely only on their SOPs. And in my mind, it's just a complete lack of trust.
Sure.
Where it's like, if you don't trust the people that work for you, or the people that you work with, you want to have them as like dialed in as possible, but that sends a message about who you are and what you want to be. So it's like, if you act like a chain store, if you act like Panera, or if you act like Starbucks or Burger King or whatever, you're going to, curate a Burger King like environment.
Right.
And to do what we're doing, which is to have a certain amount of SOP, but a certain amount be, I don't know how you would
Somewhat organic
say it.
is the
Yeah,
way.
somewhat organic. You really have to ante up in terms of training and empowerment of your employees, or else they're never going to get it. Like, if you don't have a clear picture of what the mission is, good luck having some sort of power to please thing, because everyone's just going to be on their own little sub-quest, and there's not going to be any cohesion. So it is tricky, for sure.
No, it's for sure tricky. It made me realize that we've got to take some swings at training at a pretty deep level, I'll say, in the context of, us creating it originally for Verve and then getting to do it a couple times more. It's like, oh yeah, It's something that feels close to the chest, but what you said earlier, it feels like something that's somewhat of a no-brainer, even though it's very intense and intentional, because that's all we've thought about for so long in our jobs, as they've elevated, is how do we create training and processes and systems? Like that's been, for me, I mean, because I helped start,
But
I was the
that's-
first one there. It's like what you had to do. So it's just something I didn't think about as intensely, as intensely as it might come off. Basically, we have a lot of experience in it, and it's just like how we think now.
But I think it's even bigger than what you're saying, because I think you're saying like, how do we create systems and trainings and processes? And I'd argue for you, that's not even close to where you start, because you're
not
starting
me.
from a
I'm
place of
starting-
where it's
yeah.
just like, okay, how can I delight the people that come in the door?
Sure.
Right.
I'm reverse
Yeah.
engineering.
And if
it.
you
Yeah.
don't have that desire,
doesn't really matter.
you can have training systems and processes that do all kinds of different things. Some of
point.
them are going to be like that big box store stuff. Some of them might be completely organic and still not serve the guests at all. So I think it's just that clear focus on what are we doing here.
That you're just making me. You were talking about. I used Starbucks in it because I took their examples of their mission, because their mission's changed semi-recently.
I
So-
never knew their mission at all.
Well, this is why I was.
I
pulling it
remember-
up, 'cause I thought maybe you
yeah,
think it's
hit me
interesting.
with it.
I gotta find
I
it.
do think it's
'cause I have to look at it. Okay.
because
So the original, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Starbucks, the original was establish Starbucks as the premier purveyor of the finest coffee in the world while maintaining our uncompromising principles as we grow. That was the first one, and I was kind of talking about same thing as you, kind of big box stores, right? Like what do you see and what might you learn from paying attention to them? And originally, right, you think
What are
about
their principles?
I didn't talk about their principles so much, but that was kind of a thing I was saying you could guess from the article, right? You could guess like heavy automation, heavy systems, heavy processes, less on anything else. Like what can I teach them to do by like literally if they read the binder almost literally and walked in, they could do a lot of it as a
Yeah. This got to be
oversimplified example.
scaled for like 20,000
Right.
employees.
The new one
Mhm.
is with every cup, with every conversation, with every community, we nurture the limitless possibilities of human connection. I was like, ooh, that one sounds a lot better.
Both of those are lies.
But that's exactly kind of what I said. I was like, I don't really see that lived out in any of the examples. So
yeah,
that's why
all you have to do is go
into
into any store
Right.
and know that that's completely not true.
Right. Or, like if it is, to your point, whoever's started that is not helping them live it out and teaching anybody anything or seeing through it in any
Right.
regard.
I
So
mean-
it has to be, it becomes a lie.
My picture of Starbucks is so when they
We make it
appointed
fast and for you.
well, when they appointed when Howard Schultz became CEO, it seemed
Right.
like it was a very clear picture of we're going to like increase the level of coffee that all Americans drink. Like we're
Yeah.
going to take this
Espresso
second
culture,
wave
kind of.
thing
Yeah.
and make it gigantic.
Yeah.
And
Or
then
maybe we'll call it latte culture in that regard.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's what
espresso
that's what
culture,
second
but-
wave culture
yeah,
is really.
yeah,
It's
totally.
like the latte, like
Yeah.
the birth of like Italian espresso culture here,
Right.
Americanized.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fast
Milk-
and a lot.
Lots of milk.
Milky beverages.
Yeah.
You know what I
Sweet.
mean? The move
Sweet.
from just like a cup of coffee to I
Yeah.
drink lattes and mochas and things that
Right.
we call cappuccino but
Sweet
aren't.
milky beverages.
Yeah, like that third place
I identify.
for real. And it's just, and it's very clear what they value when you see their trajectory from even those stories of Kent and how he
Mhm.
brought La Marzocco to Starbucks. And then
If
as
you haven't
soon as
listened,
they
go back to that episode and listen.
were big enough to where that didn't work, they're like, okay, how do we get rid of these things and
Right.
just automate everything? So that's like a value send
Mhm.
where you're just like, yeah, we don't really care about the quality so much. We just want it to be easy, simple, and fast. cheap.
Scalable.
Yeah.
Yep.
We want to hire people who don't have to think about anything and push buttons.
Heavy systems focus.
So like no matter what you write on the wall, I don't know.
Yeah.
What you do in your stores is what other people see. That's the
Yeah.
truth right there. You can lie in your fucking mission statements all you want. Please
Dude.
don't. Just be honest with yourself. You'll be happier.
So will your teams. Well, they'll be.
Well, they will.
They will because
They
they'll
will.
understand what's going on and they'll feel like they're on a similar page.
And the ones that
And
don't
that's helpful.
resonate with that
Right, they'll
will leave,
right.
And it's like I was reading an example, I think it was a Seth Godin thing where he was talking about everyone at Goldman Sachs knows that the goal of them coming to work is to just make as
Make
much
money.
money as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they don't hide it. They're not shy about it. And if you don't believe in that, it's going to be a terrible job for you.
Oh,
You need to
man.
go somewhere else.
Not for me. Yeah.
So, but there's something to be said for just being honest in your mission statement, whatever it is. You kind of can't go wrong.
yeah, man.
Because people can tell when there's a disconnect.
Yeah, you're going to have
Right.
some sort of cultural dissonance and it's not going to work out. It's going to make everything way more frustrating.
Totally, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of that. It's my daughter's birthday on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
that's
Birthdays
cool.
on birthdays, huh?
Birthday.
Start the lion, dogs. Start the freaking lion. What else? Is that all? That's our week so far, right?
I mean, we got
yeah.
that. We
I mean, we got
mean,
plenty.
on Wednesday we're gonna look with the team about kind of like what our view for the next 3 years kind of is looking like, next
Yeah.
couple of years, and it's like where we'd like to be,
Been
Mhm.
thinking a lot about that.
but how you get there, and the ideas
when you go.
between what it looks like to kind of come to work every day. And we have got quarterly goals and we've got yearly goals. We come to work today at a certain level of work versus if you really want to reach a little bit higher, what that looks like from.
I'm dying.
You breathe through the fluids
Take you
again.
It's okay. We
the-
can edit out this
Can
microphone.
take you to the vet ER.
Weiser can remove me fully.
You can't breathe the spice.
Yeah.
Breathe the spice.
Yeah, I mean, what it looks like, I feel like there's two different levels, right? There's kind of like the aspirational level, and that's one, what does that look like from the effort level it's going to take to get there versus maybe like everybody's still working hard and still cares a lot and still putting in their work every day, but but what's the difference between that and kind of a level up, I guess, where you reap the extra rewards of the level up?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking so much about that.
I think that's the fun journey, and I think part of what we're going to let the team into on a little bit of a deeper level. And it's not to say they haven't experienced this before, but maybe start bringing this more consistently to the table, is walking through the brainstorming process with us instead of kind of hearing only specifically what we had to say and then contributing, right? And
Yeah.
so like, that I think is part of our next portion of learning, at least in terms of being able to feel comfortable as somebody who hasn't really sat with us and gone back and forth for why, what, how, potentially, right? Not even necessarily coming out with an official plan, for me, is going to be okay in that
Yeah.
regard, right? I think for me, it's having people sit in there and think to themselves, okay, if I'm actually in charge and whatever we'll say, and I want to make 200 grand in 10 years, which is not really how we
Just
talk
making up
about
numbers.
this. This is literally me making something up. That's why I said it like that. But like, what does it take for a company like this to support me and all the other people, not just me, right? Like, how does that look? And how does it look in the context of our mission and values? And to me, if you're talking about what you said earlier, Chris, I'm like, if you're reverse engineering it, to me, it's like, how do you think about those same experiences on a grander scale? Whatever that might be, because grander could be literally like a food truck, everybody. Grander could be different menu items. At one point, Grander was putting a breakfast burrito on our menu. So you can like make Grander whatever it is, but what is the experience that we want to build, and how do we all play parts in it?
Yeah, I think could be a really powerful experience, because if there's, I'm not saying we have a bunch of tension, but there's always some sort of tension in terms of if you're in any position, it's a natural human desire to want to improve that position.
Absolutely.
Both learn more, get more skill, and also, we have bills to pay. It'd be nice to earn more money.
Yeah.
So instead of being a part of the system and coming to your boss and saying, I want to make more money, how does it work? If you've got a group of leaders and you kind of flip it around and you're like, cool, this is where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? And how are we going to get it? Go.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
And then we have this sandbox to play in, which is our mission and values. So
Mhm.
it's not anything goes,
Totally.
but it's kind of that exercise of thinking like an owner. If this was actually mine and I actually want what I say I want, what would I have to do to get it?
Yeah.
And those are really, really interesting conversations, because once you claim you want the thing and you put the projects on the table, you're completely on the hook for doing them.
Yeah.
And it's by your own, you entered into the agreement voluntarily. This is your idea,
Right.
So I think that's cool. That's kind of where my head's been at, where I've been feeling almost like I've been acting too much like a manager lately and not
A leader.
like a leader. Yeah. And I want to get more into that leadership zone and less out of that
What do you think
managerial zone.
the difference is? The main difference is just a tangent, real quick.
Managers tell people what to do, and leaders inspire people to do things and like take control of their own path, within the context of the company.
Yeah.
So if I was managing the marketing, or let's take a little tiny small example of it, like if someone was managing our social media, I'd be like, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this, maybe do this, this is that, versus, okay, here's the vision for how this thing should go.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm stepping back and I'm going to look at our company and the promise that we're making and how we're communicating with other people, this is what we want it to feel like. Go.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been doing a little more like nitpicky stuff lately, and it doesn't feel that great. So
I find myself sometimes at tension with that too, though, because I think you're absolutely right. And then I wonder about, and we're kind of talking about that in the context of bringing people to the brainstorming, is when the people don't have like the tenure, the experience, or the comfort to, and maybe sometimes the creativity, although I don't want to assume people don't have as much creativity, but they don't know how to approach the next things. And that's where, for me, sometimes leadership is like, not necessarily always what could feel like management, which is like, do this, but almost like, hey, we're going to go exploring. I'm going to take us exploring in these directions and say, like, these are some ideas that could work, and kind of like start the line to like almost like open up different ways of thinking, and then let them go, which I don't know if that falls.
I would do it the other way.
But what
because
happens when they don't have any sort of clue where to go?
they have to do the work of learning how to go first, because that's what leaders do.
But
So-
you're the leader in that regard, right?
Yes,
So how
but
do you
we
teach
want to
them
work
that?
with other leaders. We don't want to work with cogs, like the people who work
what I'm
at
saying,
big
though.
box stores. So this is what I'm saying.
Do you
To
just
where-
wait then? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you just sit there and
So-
wait and be like, oh, you're not doing it still?
So the
That's kind of where I'm wondering. when
no,
I feel this way.
you're allowed to give feedback on the things they do, and you're even
Right.
allowed to do what you're talking about doing, which
Yeah.
is prime the pump, but only after they've taken the first steps for themselves. So what I would want to see is, let's say I laid out a big picture vision of how
Right.
like a guest experience could be, or social could be, or whatever. And then the people that we work with aren't green. They've been doing this, if you look at our leadership team,
Yeah.
most of them have at least 4 or 5 years here in the company. To pretend that they're new is just not a reality. So what I want
Right.
to see is, like, what would you do? Run me 3 to 5 plays, like figure out a few ways of how this could work, then bring them back to me. And even if let's say they're all terrible,
Mm-hmm.
then you might have to do some training and coaching and say, like, okay, cool, like, well, how'd you get here?
Right.
And that'll
Yeah.
help you figure out like what mindset they're in, and then you can coach from that position. I think the thing with you going first or me going first is it lets them off the hook, and they're like, I don't ever have to do the brain work of generating any high level ideas, because Jared, Chris, or Charles is going to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick 1 or 2 and go down a path. And like, if you're training for, like, if I'm long term, like, I want someone to run this whole section of the thing.
Sure.
Like, and I want to train them to be awesome. Like, the hard work in leadership is like making assertions, going out on a limb, trying something out, maybe being wrong,
Yeah.
owning it, and then doing it again and finding something that ultimately works.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Does that mean, though, in that regard, that you're willing to, like, I see the devil's advocate in that side is like, that could take years for somebody
Well,
to
it
do.
will. It
Yeah,
it
but
will.
I mean, it could take years longer than we would want to. Like, say the progression of the 3-year thing is everybody wants to be there. So are you saying that like it's fine if we don't hit that because the people aren't able to get there themselves?
I'm saying if we have a brainstorm about the 3-year thing,
right.
I would want people to say what they want
Sure.
and give several ideas on how to get that.
Yeah.
And then if we need to tweak some of those ideas,
Sure.
that's fine. Or poke the bear and say why they may or may not work. That's fine.
Right.
Versus people saying what they want and then us saying, here's how we should do it. I just want them to go first.
Yeah, could we do that on Wednesday where it's like we kind of prime the pump and then like give them like 30 minutes as a group to kind of like
That's a fun idea.
brainstorm and see how they would get there and then come back and like
We should probably pre-prime the pump
That's
and
what I'm-
say
yeah,
like
exactly.
like today/tomorrow and say, hey, I mean, and now we're kind of engineering this on the moment. So
Yeah.
everybody, this is a Monday for a potential Wednesday.
We could roll it week over week. You
But-
know what I mean?
But
Yeah.
even so, if we wanted to, all I'm saying is what you would have to do in finance, right, is without the detailed snapshot, be like, here's where we're at. Here's what it says in 3 years based on that. Here are the implications. We're going to brainstorm like crazy on Wednesday. Take your time. Maybe we'll start the day with like 30 minutes to yourselves, but also start thinking about this now. And then we're going to put you together for 30 minutes as a squad to come up with some ideas to put on the board. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they need time to think about it because once you get there, thinking about it on the fly, some people love that,
That's
some
hard.
people don't. Like, I can come up with ideas, a few other, maybe Herman, you know, like just to shout him out.
he
'cause
won't be,
that's how-
he won't be there.
That's how I know, but that's how his brain thinks, right? But certain people's brains, like, even then, my best ideas aren't coming in that 30 minutes, most likely.
They're
like,
coming in the shower like the day after.
yeah,
or something
you like need
that.
to plant the seed. So I think that's not a bad idea. We should plant that seed though, and kind of give people a bit of our team a bit of a clue of what it means. Because if they haven't sat with us in the brainstorm like that, they're going to assume it's going to be similar. Which is we're going to look at the numbers, we're going to see what we see, and we're going to take it all in, and then we're going to start talking about it, and they're going to walk away and keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about it.
And then
I do
again,
like
it's
it.
like that doesn't have to be the way we do it. That's just my preference for
yeah.
kind of what I would like to create in my world. It's like could be
Oh, no.
totally legit if someone's like, I want to be the guy that has to start the idea train. Like that's fine, and then have people,
No, I
jump
think-
in and go from there. Like
I don't think there's a right or well, there's probably some wrongs, but I don't think what you're saying has anything that reflects anything wrong in my brain whatsoever. I think what I picture, or maybe I'm starting to feel, is that not everybody has the kind of mindset for like a bigger vision like that, or like the bigger connection pieces. And I don't think that's actually a negative thing. I just think people think differently. So that's more where I wonder
Yeah.
about that. And it's like, then in that regard, like, do we just keep, if it was a we or a you as a leader sitting outside of somewhere else, like, do you just keep on being like, you know, this person is like 90% killing it, but they just don't ever come up with those bigger ideas that help us get to the next place. That for me still means that doesn't mean the person's less valuable per se.
No,
That's
I
where
don't-
I'm wondering, like, as that leader person, then like, do you step in and start showing them direction? You know, like that's kind of where I'm going with that question.
yeah, I mean, those are different kinds of employees that we're talking about.
but in my experience, they're not. You know, like there's
Well, they
always
have to
been
be. There's a difference between
Well,
someone who
okay,
comes
that's-
up with big picture ideas and can like create a vision and follow
Right.
it versus someone who you're essentially is a glorified version of a TaskRabbit. Not that they're not valuable. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's not valuable.
No, I
and
agree.
I'm not saying that
I hear
like,
you.
that companies shouldn't have that, but I'm saying
No, I think that's the great hard question. that I'm
who
asking.
who do you want to work for and with? And like for me, I don't want to work with TaskRabbits that I have to tell every little thing what to do. I would much rather work in a collaborative environment where I'm empowering people to come up with these big picture things on their own.
Well, I mean, I agree. We like that. I'm not sure. Like when I read up about other companies, sometimes they have groups that don't necessarily sit in the same structure that kind of do that, right? That like get into the room together and make it so, call it a board, call it a whatever. But
Sure.
like in our company, we don't have it outlined like that quite yet in that specificity, which it doesn't mean anything. It just means we don't right now,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's more where I'm going with that, because I think there are tons of executive and C-level-esque people in other companies that don't get called into the room to work on that portion of it, but they get called in when it's like the right place for their best work, which doesn't necessarily always mean TaskRabbit too, you know? They're just different
Some
things.
people are good at project managing things at a high level or executing at a high level.
Some people don't also come up with creative strategy in regards to like where we need to go to get there. But as soon as they hear the idea, they're like, I have 1,000 ideas how to make that idea work where maybe this other group doesn't. You know, like they might be more, tell me whatever. We're building a car. And they're like, oh, what's a car? And you're like, okay, it's this thing. It's got 4 wheels and it rolls and you can steer it. And that's about it. It can look however you want. Like you just got to be able to sit in it and steer it. And they're like, cool, I got a million ways to make that work. I can go now. But you didn't, before that, I wouldn't have been like, what's the next thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's kind of where my brain gets hung up with the mix between, I think that person then who could be like, okay, cool, this is how we're going to build this car. And then they all of a sudden have a vision around the car. But prior to the car, they had no idea what to do.
I think that's still creative work on their part. That's still leadership.
Totally.
As long as they're enrolled and signed on to the idea of building a car.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, I think, maybe I'm wrong, by inviting our executive team to brainstorm with us is that we're giving them, we're either giving them input on the project that we're working on. It's like we get to choose whether or not we're building a car or a spaceship or a bicycle. Yeah. So we're either letting them participate in that or we're simply just letting them watch us decide that thing.
Yeah, no. We're trying to help them participate in what it looks like to experience that for sure. So like, that's same page there.
That's kind of like where I see the difference is we're not saying you have to go build a car now.
Yeah, totally.
We're saying, okay, what do you guys want? Like, here's what we want. Here's what sounds exciting to me. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
You know, and people have different motivations. Be like, oh, well, I want to do this kind of work with this kind of people. Like, ultimately, I would like to make this kind of money and have this kind of lifestyle. And, like, all those things come together. And then we're opening the door for them to say, like, what they would do about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I wasn't even, when I'm asking these questions, talking about us. I'm thinking ethereally. You know, like, when you might be a smaller business owner and you want that, but potentially, I mean, I'll remember those days. I think I had a lot of ideas. So the thing that I wasn't invited as much into is what we're inviting teams into, which is the behind the scenes brainstorming and to see like why or why not the ideas I had would or wouldn't go, right? So that's part of what I think we're letting teams into. But if you're thinking about this as somebody out there, how do we encourage our team members and employees to be this with us, our leaders, you know, who are, there's 12 people in the business, you know, and they've never done it before.
Like how
it does come down to, I'm guessing it comes down to trust, right? Like, what do you have to do? You have to come down to trust to pass off these ideas, to work with them collaboratively, to not be stuck in the minutia of having to always lead forward yourself. And then
everything's on a scale, right? So if you just started your business and you're 1 or 2 years in and you have a really small team, you're not going to be doing the same kinds of things as a business that's been around for 7 or 8 years and has almost 100 employees. It's like, you know, you're not going to give probably not going to give high level creative control to someone who is 18 and just started 3 months ago.
Right.
So you're I think you give people bite size. If you value, like, we're making assumptions, like if you value that kind of leadership, because a lot of people don't, like, why didn't you get invited to have those conversations? It's not because you didn't have good ideas, because they didn't want you there.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't want that kind of a system, and that's fair. Not everybody does. So if you do, it's like, what's something small that someone can own that they can take to the next level? And I think that's almost full circle of the conversation, because power to please kind of is that thing. We're saying that if you're on the front line at our store, regardless of your level of training, if something happens in the cafe that we don't have a SOP for, there's not a playbook for every system, you know, something with the guest gets messed up, we blow it somehow, you're allowed to do whatever you feel like in the moment to make that right, up to a certain dollar amount. So if we botch someone's burrito order and we just forget it, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can give you a gift card. I can throw you a bag of coffee. Next one's on us. I don't have to ask my manager. I don't have to ask the team leader. I don't have to check in with anybody. I'm cool to just do it. I can double back later and get feedback. It's like, hey, we blew this dude's order. I gave him a bag of coffee and a mug and a burrito and a sweatshirt and a whatever. And we're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. That was maybe a little too much, like, and you can dial it in afterwards. So that's like a tiny little bite-sized thing. But I think like at every level, if you want to encourage that behavior, you give people more and more that they can take on. And then the more experience you have, it's like, of course, we're going to trust Mark to go out on a limb more than someone who just started 6 months ago.
Right.
Like he's been in the industry for over a decade and been with us for,
6
since
years?
2017.
7-year anniversary.
Yeah. So I think it's baby steps if you want to do it. I don't even think I'm good at it. That's where I'm frustrated with it, is like it's so easy to lean the other way for me. To just be like, just do it like this, dude. Just do it like that. Like, like
I
just,
think you.
I think you're pretty good at it, actually, dude.
I don't
Well,
know.
I think you want that for people. I think wanting that for people and then seeing it all come together in the way that you want it for people, like in the past, over the course of when we
Right.
started till now, it's like been difficult sometimes.
Well, I guess on the flip side of that is the people that you're working with, you can encourage and empower, but at some point people have to make a decision and answer the question, do I want that for myself?
Right.
Sure.
Do I want to be that kind of leader, or am I just happier being someone who is, a task rabbit? And I'm not using that in a derogatory way. Like there's a ton of people who do organizational stuff in a lot of different companies that are super valuable.
Yeah, you
You know?
insert operations for that
Yeah.
too, right? Like that is what it
Just
is.
people executing on things.
Yeah, like that shit is important
Get
too.
things done.
Yeah, it's not trivial at
Right.
all. So, I don't know.
I feel
Yeah,
you.
we'll find out on Wednesday.
We'll
Because
find
we've
out.
done stuff like this before with different groups of people, and
I think
You
it
know,
gets
with-
better every time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Would you
Oh, for
agree with
sure.
that?
I think it's
currently is
moving
better,
in
right?
the right
Like,
direction.
you mentioned us working on yearly and quarterly goals. I mean, we're already a lot better. I think we're just trying to expand the scope and the understanding and the knowledge and
Bring in ownership.
Yeah, and I think maybe what people get challenged, I mean, I know it's challenging for them, is that you kind of, in a lot of regards, have to find a way to match and speak very ethereally with some sort of understanding of how to operationalize something that feels super ethereal, right? It's like, how do you take ideas that are not even remotely real and somewhat lofty, and maybe even just slightly off center from what you've ever done before, and think about them in the context of actually being able to do them? And that's something that I think the three of us have
Did
always
really
done
well.
and did really well, which is why we sit here together and have a business that is what it is.
And then we got a team of 5 other people
Mhm.
on the executive team, and it's like that would be my hope for them,
Oh,
is that
absolutely.
like they can play off of each other's like complementary skill
Mhm.
sets
I
to
see
get
it.
there in the same way.
I see the microcosm of it. I think the 2 pop-ups that we've done
Mm-hmm.
are a perfect example
Mm.
of running a business inside of a business.
Yeah.
Because if we took Andre's burger pop-up and Daniel's Oso
Daniel's.
pop-up, we didn't really do anything. You know?
Totally, they did it.
They had a team of people supporting it from all angles, where you've got the mastermind, which is, we'll use Andre's just because it was the most recent. Andre has a vision for what he wants to do. I want to do burgers, fries, milkshake, classic American style
Right.
pop up. I want to do that. That's what I know. I know how to make the food. Now what? Herman's like, okay, cool. I know how to dial all this in. We can work on the
Mhm.
cogs. I can curate and
Yep.
procure all the ingredients for it. And then there's the team in the kitchen is like, ooh, I want to support this. Like, Andre doesn't work in a kitchen.
No,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So he's not
totally.
managing that kind of
Yeah,
space.
he's not even practiced in there.
Right.
Mhm.
But the team in the kitchen's like, oh, we know exactly what to do to help you get what you need. Wiser is just like, oh, cool. How do we market this and create like cool little merch around it or
Totally.
signage or promote it? And then
Just test those boundaries, baby.
so you got a little mini business inside a business, and there was a family at the pop-up. It was, I think it's Kristen's dad and mom. They were like, dude, thanks for doing this. This is awesome. You guys did a good job. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I
Nothing to
didn't.
do with
I
it.
literally did nothing. They're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I was like, I didn't do shit. They did all this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just here to have hamburgers. They're like, oh, so you just give them the keys? And I'm like, yeah, but they already have the keys. So
Yeah.
we just gave them a thumbs up. Like, you want to do this thing? Thumbs up. That's like all I can really take credit for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a cool example where, it works. They're on the
Totally.
hook for everything. If the night sucks, it's on that whole team that the night sucks.
Mhm.
Everybody has to play their part.
Yeah.
And so far, the night hasn't sucked. So
The night was huge.
I mean, we've only done 2, but they've been incredible. So I'm just like hopeful
Yeah.
that we can get there. And that's maybe what I'm saying. It's like, how do you create that kind of buy-in? Like, they have ultimate buy-in on their own ideas.
right.
Like, how do we create that kind of buy-in on a broader scale to where it's like
Mhm.
working in the day-to-day feels the same as like working on this super special, pop-up thing? Like, how do you make the
Absolutely.
real work,
That's-
the day-to-day work feel that special and that almost like urgent and-
Life-giving.
exactly. Like,
fulfilling.
and I think part of it's like they've got this, like, they've got a box, but they've also got like a ton of creative freedom, and it's like everything that they've created is, I mean, sure, I could go in there and be like, I would have tweaked this and tweaked that, but like overall, I'm like, yeah, great, that's awesome,
Mhm.
good job. Like, how do we do that?
No, dude, totally. I think that is the way to get them excited about all those day-to-days too. We talk about that a lot as well. How do we get people more engaged in specialty coffee across the board, and so they geek out on making it perfect and wake up in the morning just passionate about pulling the perfect coffee for people.
Yeah,
I love-
gamify. How you gamify things.
Well, yeah, and just there's so many different layers to that. I totally feel you, which kind of makes it fun. Some people are gonna get in there and be passionately connected because of the holistic effect of buying specialty coffee from third world countries and like growing industry together and supporting. Some people are gonna get in with just straight up hospitality. Some are gonna get in with quality. Some are gonna get in with the team around them, and all different layers of that are important, which I guess is a way to say we have a pretty complex business that does touch on all those things through our mission, and that's what makes it really fun and engaging. I mean,
Yeah, it's
people-
always changing.
It
It's always
is.
different.
I got awesome feedback from a team member in Aptos. They're like, you guys created something so awesome here, and it's so fun to work here. And, it was like Super Does right before the Spartan race. I was like, thank you for telling me. That's really special. It's just like, I'm like, I think everybody wants to do a good job, and we bring them all together, and then you guys have a great time together at work. And it's still work for sure. You guys are slammed. Like, they were punked in there. It was super busy, but enjoying themselves together and feeling like their work matters is the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's work matters, but you don't have to always feel like that at your job, and we'd like you to here.
That's it.
Is that we
That's
do
a
a whole
wrap.
podcast? That's great.
I think that's a wrap.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places: YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.